Hi guys, so this week we are going to learn all the types of sutures. First of all, I would like to thank the company Ethicon for providing me all the samples of the sutures for the series of the lectures. Alright, one of the favorite question when it comes to suture, people always ask, how do you classify the sutures? Alright, from this this question, how do you classify? There's a lot of ways for you to classify. Let's say in the human beings. Alright, how do you classify human being? It's almost the same like you asking like that. Let's say how classify human being. You can have male, female, you have tall, thin, you have handsome, not handsome, you have pretty, not pretty. There are all so much classification system. But for the classification of suture, alright, the first and foremost, the very easy is to say, is it natural or is it synthetic? Right, so the natural ones, example, I don't think the generation nowadays would know what is a catgut. Catgut is actually not from the cat, but it's from the cattle. Cattle gut is usually from the sheep. The bowel of the sheep is a natural suture. I think probably in the Europe, in the US, this suture already have been obsolete, and this is actually for academic purpose. Right? Yes, some countries still use catgut, but catgut there's a lot of problem, especially allergy. Right? So number two, silk suture. Right? Silk has been in the world for so long and it's been useful. Usually silk sutures are very good because the knot property is very good. Alright, and the next one, you have a stainless steel suture. So sorry I don't have the sample here, but stainless steel suture, you use it for sternum, alright, or for all these CABG procedures where you have open heart surgery and when you want to suture up the bones, right, especially the sternum bone, then you will use a stainless steel. So synthetic, we have polyester. The most common polyester that we know is nylon. Alright, this, or we call it polyamide, is actually the same, right? Polyester. And the next one is, my favorite, this, alright, polyglactin. Alright, polyglactin 910. Why is it called 910? Okay, because this is 90% polygluconate and 10% of a lactate. Alright, and this composition is actually patented by the Ethicon. So that's why Ethicon only can use 910. Other companies, the composition is different. You have 815, you have other things, but because of this composition is the most stable one. Alright, so you also have PDS. Alright, this PDS suture. Alright, okay, PDS is polydioxone. PDS suture is one of the strongest, right? And because it is a monofilament, we'll go to that later on, right? There are other sutures as well, which is what I always use is polypropylene, right? Or we call it Prolene, right? We use Prolene for our textile as well, okay? Alright, but this Prolene, why personally I like to use because it's cheap. It's one of the cheapest suture that you can find. And we also have a absorbable versus non-absorbable suture. Now, The problem now comes interesting is because the definition of absorbability, there is no clear definition given by any textbook, given by anybody, but there is a arbitrary of 90 days. It means the 90 days for the suture to lose its full tensile strength. Then that means if the suture have less than 90 days and to lose its full tensile strength, it is a absorbable suture. If it is more than 90 days, it is a non-absorbable suture. What's the problem now? Because of the advancement of the technology nowadays, we do have absorbable suture, but it can live up to more than 1 year before it loses its full tensile strength. Alright, some will describe this as remaining in the human body permanently, but after years of surgical experience, actually, if you look at, let's say, my favorite suture, prolene, like some prolene get absorbed when the patient after a few years, right? So, is it permanent in the human body? Not really. So what are my suture? Student always also ask me, how does the suture get absorbed? Right, absorption is actually by proteolysis or hydrolysis into the human body. Proteolysis, protein, alright, relies the protein is actually for catgut, right? But for other suture that is absorbable like PDS, like my favorite acryl, alright, all these suture are actually absorbed by hydrolysis. The last classification that normally used is monofilament and multifilament or multifilament. We call this a braided suture. Alright, so what are the difference between the monofilament and also a multifilament? A monofilament suture, the suture is only a single suture all the way. Alright, monofilament suture is like this one, monocryle, or we call it a polyglycoperon. Alright, or we have this PDS. Alright, you can see it's written there, monofilament. Alright, okay. Other non-absorbable suture polyamide, they are also monofilament. Alright, okay. So multifilament, multi means more than one or two or more. Alright, so what happened in this suture? Usually 2 or 3 suture, they are braided, you know, like a cowgirl. The cowgirl's hair, alright, is all braided. Alright, so it's actually, let's say the suture is 3O, or this one, acryl is 1. Okay, but it will written there, you'll be written there as braided. Alright, you won't say any monofilament. So sorry, I haven't told you the example. It's like with acryl, which is actually the braided suture. Alright, okay. You can also have silk. Silk is also braided, right? Others like Ethicon. Ethicon is a polyester suture, but it's also braided. I'm so sorry, I don't have a sample here for the Ethicon. The advantage of a monofilament, the drag of the tissue is less. So if you have a lesser drag because it's only a single, right? Then there is no gaps in between over the length of the suture, right? So the drag of the tissue is less and have a better glide. Because of the drag is less, it will cause inflammation to be lesser. If you use a monofilament, I think plastic surgeon will love this monofilament because it's caused the least inflammation, and because there's no gaps along the length of the suture, it causes less retention of fluids. We call it a capillarity. Because of the less capillarity, we have a less infection, right? So What is the disadvantage of a monofilament? Because the material that we have to use over one single suture in a monofilament is more, so cost is a problem. Cost will be more costly, and the tensile strength of a monofilament is actually less, right? Because it's only depending on a single thread, the tensile strength will be less, right? And the one problem with the monofilament is it always have memory. The suture is always have a higher memory, and because the drag is less, it further translate to the knot security is less. Like usually for the monofilament suture, if you want to end the suture, if you want to tie a knot, it should be 6 to 8 throws. Right? You can actually look at my previous videos on the simple interrupted suture. Will tell you how many throws, what that throw means. Multifilament or braided suture. So the advantage is actually the opposite of a monofilament. Alright, so the knot security for a braided is actually better. Alright, okay, so how many throws? Okay, usually 3 to 5 throws. So we use the average, should have 4 throws. And you will see some of the surgeons, they actually we only use 3 throws. Alright? So because it's braided, it is become more pliable. Because it's more pliability, have less memory, right? And because the material used in the multi-filament or braided suture is lesser, so it's cheaper, right? Okay, and because it's a lot, it's maybe 3, maybe 4 threads to become 1 thread, the tensile strength in the braided suture are usually better. And that's the problem with braided is the drag will be more, the drag over the suture, because can you imagine there's a lot of gaps here, right? So when you pull in the tissue, it will drag the tissue alone, or maybe the cells alone, right? Capillarity is more, so it retains more fluids. Because of that, it will also cause more inflammation. So you can see this is a complete opposite of the pros and cons of a monofilament. So how do you choose the suture to any kind of procedure or any suturing techniques or any suture that you want to use? You can refer to this. Alright. So after we talk so much about the type of sutures, absorbable, non-absorbable, monofilament, there are also a special type of suture. What are the special type of suture? And this is one of my favorite because I've been a laparoscopic surgeon. I use this quite a lot. Alright, this is called a Barbed suture. You guys know what's a barbed wire, right? Okay, let's say you go to the military, right? There's always this barbed wire in front of the barracks, right? So barbed suture originally is like this. Alright, it's like a fishbone. So when you can go like this, right, but you can never go to the back, and the suture will become tighter and tighter if you pull the correct way. Alright, and this kind of a barbed suture, we call it a unidirectional barbed suture. Okay, if you look at this is another product. Okay, they call it unidirectional. Why do we call unidirectional? Because there is another, we call it a bidirectional. Sorry, I don't wear a glove because I'm in my studio and we don't do any surgical procedure here. Alright, so you look at this. Okay, remember, do not use your finger to hold the needle. Instead, always use an instrument. Okay, with me, I have forceps with me, and you use a forceps to hold the needle. Never hold the needle with your hands, all right? And don't pull the needle, pull the suture, all right? This is actually quite nice. So let me have a close up to let you guys see the butt suture. How does it look like? If you look at that, right? It's actually, it's like a fish bone. So the direction is like this, all right? Okay, can you imagine when you pull this, right, and you couldn't pull back? There is also quite an interesting butt suture in which is actually you can go both sides, and we call it bi-directional. So instead of a fishbone design, it's actually a spiral. I'm so sorry I don't have the sample with me, but for this bi-directional, it can go both ways. So what is the advantage of a butt suture is that when we do a laparoscopic surgery, and you do not need to tie, that's a trick, you do not need to tie the suture. Instead, you can just drag and go unidirectional. Usually a unidirectional is cheaper, so that's why we will use it more. So guys, this is the end of my video for this week. So we talked a lot about the sutures. I'm so sorry there are so much information and I have to compact this in a 10 to 15 minutes video. So thank you for supporting us for the videos, and I hope we have already learned something today. So lastly, please help us to like, subscribe and hit the notification button. See you guys next week, same time, same day, same channel. Thank you.